I had to choose life first and then build everything around that. It's the complete opposite of the way that we think.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the On the Ball podcast, where we have curious conversation about life, career, spirituality, and anything in between. My name is Eniko Toth, a civil engineer turned world traveler, public speaker, trainer, and Toastmasters champion. My goal is to bring you inspirational topics and people that can help you find your own definition of success. When you are ready, it is time to be on the ball. This podcast will be truly inspiring for you and probably for many people you know. So please share the link of the podcast with them. Also, a quick reminder, hit the subscribe and love buttons to get notified about the upcoming episodes. Then share a rating and a review if you like what you are listening to. The guest of the day is an international best-selling author, award-winning marketer, and international speaker. Steve Napolitan has made millions for his clients and has worked with companies such as Apple, Intel, and Nestle. He has been known for design campaigns that generate massive amounts of leads that turn into revenue. Steve went from overworked, stressed out, beyond burnout, working 80 plus hours weeks to less than 40 hours now, and living the life he has dreamed of with his wife and children. With more business, more life, Steve typically works with entrepreneurs and C-level executives who have found success but are not living the life they desire. He has helped his clients reach millions in additional revenue while helping them design the life they want and live it now. Steve's branding and storytelling talent extends to films and television. His last TV series, Living Loud, was picked up by MTV Australia for primetime broadcast and sold to other territories around the world. Steve teaches people how to grab the attention of your perfect client, and today we are going to discuss the secret behind generating more revenue in less time. Steve and I are going to talk about the ways of finding your wow clients, sales without being salesy, and designing your best life where you have more business and more life without sacrifice. If you would like to connect with Steve, go to his website that can be found in the podcast description. And when you are ready, let's start today's episode. So hello everyone and welcome back to the On the Ball podcast, where our guest is Steve Napolitan, the international speaker and best-selling author. So thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on the show.
So my first question to you is, you are working with people and you want to try to help them make more revenue in less time. However, in the Western mindset and how we are living, we want to just do more and work harder. So how does two align? And do you have actually some tips on how to transform from one to another?
Well, it is a lot of mindset. I'll say first, many people, when they come to me, they think that how we create millions in revenue while working less hours, first they think it's craziness. Like, is this true? Are you lying? And then they want to know the techniques. What are the tools? And there are some systems that we can start to break down. But most importantly, we have to choose this, because what we tend to do, and what I did growing up in Silicon Valley in California and in the United States, is very go-go. And during all the boom of technology, right? The invention of the Apple computer and Steve Jobs and, all these technology that was happening in this space was very fast. And it was all about work, work, work. And also, we're immigrant family to the United States. So my family came with very little, and then they worked hard. So I had this mindset that I had to work hard to have what I want. And what I realized in today's world right now, as you're listening to this, whoever is out there listening to this, we have a tremendous amount of technology, automation. We have a global workforce. I mean, here you and I are doing this podcast right now, and we're in two parts of the world, and this makes an amazing opportunity for all of us to start thinking differently. And so the first step is to think of what you want in your life and design your life, and then build your business around that, build your career around that. And many people say, oh, well, that's easy said, but how do you do it? But it is the first step, because many of us, and myself included, thought that I had to go work and make money, and then with that money, then I could have what I want. Yeah. And the reality is we have to start first, because money, when anyone comes to me and says, hey, I want more money, then I always say, well, what will having that do for you? That money, because money is a tool. It's not it's not the end. Some people need it for that security, and so maybe that is their goal. I just want a certain amount of money, and then I'll feel secure. But I would even inquire on that. What is the security you're looking for? Because a lot of times it's less. So I'll stop myself here. There are many things we can break this down from, but this is the first step. We have to choose. And we also have to have, I guess maybe the second thing I would say is, then we have to have the piece that we know we can work smarter, not harder. The easy answer is more hours. That's the easy answer. I'll just work more hours, but it's not effective. The best metaphor is like a drill. Like if you think of a battery operated drill, and you're doing construction, and you have to make holes, and you got this drill, and you're drilling holes, and it's going fine. And then the battery starts to drain, and it's the only battery you have, which is our human body, right? We have this battery in this lifetime. And so then you're drilling away, and the last 10 holes need to be done. Yeah. Do you continue, and the battery is like, and it's barely turning, and you're barely making holes? Or do you stop, plug in the battery, go home, rest, come back the next day, drill those holes in 1 minute, and then it's done. And this is what we need to start training ourselves. We need to not exhaust ourselves. We need to allow recovery. We'll actually work smarter, make better decisions. And I'm proving this with dozens of companies. So hopefully that gives the first inclination. There's many peels to the onion.
Yeah, definitely. But I think understanding the first step is always the most important, because then kind of flows afterwards. But what was the shift? Because you said like you were this go Californian guy, and then now you are like, oh, it's all about the mindset. So what was that switch that helped you go from one to another?
Well, it's a big one. It's life. The reason we were in Silicon Valley is because my father worked for a big tech company. And when I went to bed at night, he was still at work. When I woke up in the morning, he was off to the next day. I grew up with a father that was a complete workaholic. And, as I became an adult myself, I blamed the companies. I said, like they took my dad away, those kinds of things. And when I was growing up, I'm grateful for everything that my father did for our family. But also there's the little boy that said, Dad, come play with me, and that sparked all of this, because then when I went to film school in college. So for university, I decided I wanted to be a filmmaker, and I went to school, and they had the edit suites open until 2 a.m. And I thought, who's going to edit their movies at 2 a.m? This is crazy. But in order to go to college, my father could not contribute, and the government said that my father made too much money. So I got no assistance. So I was working full time. 5 a.m, I went to work so I could go to school in the afternoon. And then I would finish my projects. The thing people don't know about film school, you have to finish your studies and you have to make movies to turn in for your classes. So guess who was there till 2 a.m? Me. So then one morning I woke up and I said, I was splashing water on my face. I had probably slept an hour and a half, and I was going to work, and I said, oh my gosh, I'm my dad. This is not what I wanted. I'm going to bed late. I'm getting up early. The thing I didn't want, I became. And then I wish I could tell you right now it got better. It got worse. So then I started my own company, quit that job. Again, blaming the job. And I started building my own company. But guess what I was doing? I was working harder and harder. It's kind of like wanting to get out of a hole. And I was digging to get out. And guess what? The hole just got deeper and deeper. So fast forward from 19 years old when I started my company to 31, 12 years. I grew a marketing firm. I took all my filmmaking and started making advertisements, and we were working with big companies. The bigger it got, the worse my life got. The harder it got, and I kept investing more money to help like hire more people. So the bigger the revenue, the less I paid myself. And so at 31, to paint the picture, and it took all that to tell you where the change was, that the point of change was at 31. I was having heart palpitations. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. My wife calmed me down the one night. I thought I was going to go to the hospital. It was a panic attack. I was 80 pounds heavier than you see me now, where I'm talking to you right now. This was unhealthy, stressed out, and I forgot to mention, I was also by this time got married, and I had my first son was born. And so now I'm a dad, and I feel like I'm doing worse than my dad. And that all that contrast to what I have now is what gives me the responsibility to teach, because what occurred, I got dragged to a workshop, and I mean dragged, because it was a 3-day workshop on a weekend. And I said, if I'm not working, I'm going to go be with my son, which also was a lie to myself, because I probably would have worked that weekend, because I was working weekends. I was trying to build this company so that I could have the life. Goes back to what the first question you said. I thought I was building this company, I was building revenue, and then one day I'll have that life I want. But at that conference, and I'm so glad my friend dragged me there, because I was thinking how to sneak out. I was looking for the doors. How do I get out of here? And the first speaker spoke right to my heart and told me that there's another way. And he became my mentor for 8 years. And within 12 months, I doubled my net income, the personal income I had, and I worked less. And I can tell you one thing in closing on this story. In my 20s, I lost $4 million. My company earned and lost over $4 million. And then in my 30s, because of meeting that coach, I continually invested in myself, and I invested over $500,000 in coaching. Now at 31, I couldn't even commit, even though the company was making so much money. I had employees and all this. There's no way I could afford $500,000. But as I kept getting the help, I was able to invest more. And now I'm in my 40s. Into my mid 40s. And I could tell you, I would go back to my 31-year-old self and say, pay double if you have to, because the life I have now is priceless. I can't put a price tag on it. And it does go back to what I told you when you first asked me the first question. I had to choose life first and then build everything around that. It's the complete opposite of the way that we think. And so hopefully, I know it's a long answer, but it's the truth, and it's really what made me who I am today.
Yeah. And in a sense, like what I was missing from that story, I also heard you telling, and you have this best-selling book, which is 1 Hour Day to Six Figures. And in that one, you talk about your personal struggle and like how the successful business failed, and you had to live on your sister-in-law's couch. So did it come in after that meeting at the 31-year-old self, or like before that, or how does that story fit in?
Yeah, it was right after. So part of the transition, I was trying to hold on to that company with everything I could, even though it was all wrong. So many things were not okay. It's kind of like fixing a house that is infested, with bugs and all these things. It's like you try to make a new kitchen, even though you have bigger problems, right? The foundation has problems. It needed to be wiped out. And I know this now. At the time, it was very hurtful. It was hard, but it actually was a rebirth. And so, when I first met that coach, he helped me with my present business. But then it became apparent that I was holding on to the past, and I was still not getting through. So it was probably, I think, about 3 years after working, that I had that complete collapse. And it was a reach for a shiny object too. Just to say, another lesson I learned in that is I was already doing better. It was really good. It was the peak of that era of my life. It was the best part, but I still was suffering from so much loss that I wanted to recoup money, savings. I had basically no retirement left because of all the losses I had taken.
Mm-hmm.
And so holding on to a thread, not much there. And I reached for this big opportunity, and it didn't work. And it was 2 international moves. The opportunity was in Australia, so the whole family got to move there. We sold everything in the United States, moved to Australia. Within 6 months, I realized this big opportunity wasn't going to work. And then during that 6 months, my American clients felt neglected, so they one by one went away. And so then I ended up having to move back to the United States. I'm truncating the story. There's more there,
Mm-hmm.
but the reality is that's I didn't have any reserves, so I completely collapsed. And by this time, there's a family of 5. So now my 2 daughters are born. So we have 3 children, my wife and I, and we're sleeping on air mattresses on my sister-in-law's floor. And the all of these moments that I'm sharing with you, like all that pain through my 20s, and even this moment, there were definitely moments of depression. I mean, in fact, when I met my mentor, I thought I was a loser.
Mm-hmm.
Look at me. I lost all this money. And he looked at me and said the most profound thing. He said, how many 20-year-olds can say they lost? How many people? I think he said, actually, I'm going to try to word it better. He said, how many people can say that they lost $4 million in their 20s? Like, it totally reframed my mindset to say, wow, what a learning opportunity. And then even in this moment, coming back to the United States, having had some success, there definitely was some shame, feeling bad about myself. And I remember waking up first, sitting on the air mattress the first day we were there, and I looked at my family sleeping. And I really think that if I was not a father, I could have went into a very deep depression, but because I saw them and I'm like, I must feed this family, I put on running shoes and went for some physical activity, came back, my family was waking up, and I put the air mattresses up against the wall, and that became my office because that's all I had. We had no cars, no furniture. We had 10 suitcases, 2
Wow.
for each of us. That's all we had is
Mm-hmm.
things, which also is a big deal, right? To reset your whole life. I'm very grateful for it now. At the moment, I was not so grateful. But
Yeah, I can imagine.
Then I
Yeah.
transitioned. Yeah.
And then you, what you are talking about is usually like that in 90 days, you manage to turn everything around and start a new business and turn the revenue. So what is it that you realized at that time that you can make smarter in your business, that you get more revenue in less time?
Again, there's several, but I'll try to be very
Mm,
poignant, the best that I can. So if I go to the most important things, the one thing I guess I need to start with the vulnerability. I mean, first I had to be vulnerable and humble, and I had to find that inside myself. And I had to realize, as revenue goes, many of us get caught in the web of making sales. And when I say making, emphasis on making that happen, it's in that doing. What we do is we put pressure on ourselves that we have to go get money, right?
mm,
If I'm going to make sales calls, I've got to convince people to give me money, and then I can have my business. In that moment of being very humble and being very vulnerable, and knowing that I had to feed my 3 children and support my family, I told myself, just get on the phone and tell people what's going on, and that how can I help? And then I
mm,
just, it shifted my mindset drastically. And I came away from it as a teacher now, 2 things: intention and attention. And so what I did during that 90 days, and I'll make these words clear, I set my intention. Every day I woke up and said, who can I help? And then if I knew who I was going to talk to that day, I said, oh, how can I help this person? I don't know, but I'm going to get on the phone. I'm just going to be of service. And sometimes that meant recommending something. Sometimes that meant that I would refer them to someone else that I knew to help them. And sometimes I would be able to help them personally. And then we would engage and do business. And I would, because at this point I had a long, over a decade career of successful marketing. So I really was a heavy hand on marketing consulting, and I was able to help companies. So when I found those companies, and then the second word, so that's the intention. I set that intention. The second word is attention. I made a commitment to myself to not talk about me, because that's what a lot of salespeople do, right? They pitch, they tell their store, they tell why their widget or their service is so good. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. And by the way, I didn't even feel good about myself at that time, right? So I wasn't ready to brag anyway, but it was a good thing, because now I've completely eliminated. Since then, that changed the way that I sell forever. I just had my intention to help, and then I put my attention on them. I just asked a lot of questions, and I said very little about myself, but I was willing to be vulnerable and humble. And then I was like, hey, here's how I can possibly help. What do you need? And then I just listened, and I found many clients. In 90 days, as you said, I booked over $250,000 in revenue, the fastest I had ever booked new revenue like that, from zero to 250, and then onward to millions in revenue. And now it's been one of the biggest lessons that I've helped just this year, just in 2020, last year. From the time we're recording this, I took a client from 42 million to 57 million during the 2020 experience. And they all worked less, because when you do this, you can actually shorten the time that you spend to make this happen. And so that's the second part. Maybe we can pick this apart later in this conversation, but just the thing to say is, because I was so focused on them, I was able to shorten the amount of time on the phone. I was able to shorten the amount of meetings. I was able to more quickly find out if I could help someone. If I couldn't, I sent them on their way. Whereas before, I would have spent more time and then say, oh, that didn't work. Sometimes prior, I would spend weeks, months courting someone, courting, and then find that they're not the right fit. Now, within a matter of an hour, I was finding out, or less, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Oh, hey, I go do this. I recommend this. And then I was able to filter the people I was meant to spend more time with. Does that make sense? So I know there's some layers.
Yeah, that does make so much sense. And it also, like, so many of us are just wasting too much time on the wrong people. So how can we transform from the wrong people to the right people? And then at the next stage is the wow people, that the people you are talking about. So what is the real difference? How does it feel when we work with the wrong people and when we work with the wow people? And how can we find the wow clients?
I love that you said feel, because that's what it is. Wow. Why most marketers call it your target market, your ideal client. Some people call it your avatar of your client. But for me, I like to call it wow, because I want to bring the experience in. The experience is what is very, very important. And it goes back to energy. Remember when I was talking about the drill? Many people, because I'm the more business, more life guy, and they know me as that, they think that it's all about time. But time is valuable. But you know what I believe is more valuable? Energy. Energy is, because if you have time, then and you don't have the energy, then what is that time worth if you're laying in bed and you're sick? And so let's bring this back to wow clients. And then the other side I call ow clients, the ones that hurt. So the wow and the ow. And just think in your mind as you're listening to this, when you have an ow client, does it lift your energy or deplete your energy? Depletes, goes down. And then on the wow, when you work with clients that is lighting you up, your heart is beating faster in a good way, and their heart's beating, and they leave working with you, and you leave phone calls with them, and you're excited. Your energy is going up while you're working. We tend to go the extra distance, Here in the United States, we call it the extra mile, whatever you want to call it, the extra distance. When you go farther for the client, for the customer, they're going to feel that. And you know what? When it's wow, you do it automatically. Just think about it. If everyone here and anyone listening, if you think in your mind of someone that you absolutely loved working with, you're going to smile. You're going to feel the energy in your body. Now, on the other side, you can think about the one that you did not want to work with, and then notice your energy and your going back to the word you use, the feelings. It does not feel good. And this is where we get ourselves in trouble. This is actually where we think to do business, we must work with anyone that will give us money, then we're going to prosper. That's not true. That money might be tainted. It might have issues with it. It might cost you more money and pain to deal with those clients. And, I also have to say, those OWL clients are not bad people. They're just not the people for us.
Exactly. And that's why you're recommending them to the other companies, or I gave them some other insights, right?
That's it. I have a sign. You can't read it from here. And obviously, if you're listening to the podcast, you surely can't read it. But it says, life is about finding people your kind of crazy.
Yeah, I love that.
From the outside, we all think we're crazy when we look at someone else, but they're just different. It's not that they're crazy. They're just different than us. And that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, exactly. I align with that so much. Like, we are all crazy, but different type of crazy. And we need to find our type of crazy, like our own community of crazy. And that's what we resonate with, right?
Well, yeah. And it's so much better. And the last thing I would add to this crazy, it's crazy how successful you can be when you focus on wow. I call it the 4 R's that I just wanted to add in real quick so everyone can get this value here. But when you have a wow client, think about it. The first R is results. You're going to have more results because it's so wow. You're going to do more. They're going to get more. Everyone's going to be more invested. So, and when you have more results, people tend to pay more. If they get more results, they're going to pay more. They're going to show up more. They're going to stay a client longer. All of that is more revenue. So the second R is more revenue. And then out of that, having that whole experience, guess what? The third one is raving fans. They're having so much excitement. And by the way, who writes reviews? When we look at online reviews and all the reviews that are out there, it's the ow and the wow. Because you have to be at the extreme to be willing to go write a review. So you write a review when it's really bad and you're upset. You go to your keyboard and you say, I'm so upset at this because the ow. So we don't want those because that's a risk. And we don't even want that bad experience to be public or to ever happen. And then on the wow, they're so impressed with you. They're willing to go write a review without you even asking. It's when you go to your LinkedIn and it pops up and says, oh, someone just wrote this review for you. And you didn't even ask. Because they had such a wow experience. And the last R is referrals. The best, I've been a marketer all of my adult life, and the best marketing you can have is someone referring you. Just like how you and I know each other.
Exactly.
We have dear friends, the Capanet family, and they referred us to each other. And then instantaneously, both of us trusted. And we're like, oh, you want to do a podcast? Sure. If you're friends with the Capanet family, then I'm friends with you. Because that referral handoff is so strong. And that comes from the wow experience. So to conclude on this thought, if you only focus on your wow client, this goes back, because I think you asked, how do you find them? The way that I find them is when you have a wow client, guess who your wow clients tend to hang out with?
The people your crazy crew.
That's it. So it almost automatically happens. The hard part is the scariness of saying no to certain dollars. When your client comes, the hardest thing for folks when they hear this story is they don't want to, but I promise you, and I can tell story after story if we wanted to, but of the detriment, the money lost, the energy lost when you let clients in that you shouldn't work with. And that's what I focused on going back to that 90-day period. I just said, I'm going to work. I have a chance. So in crisis, you have the danger and the opportunity. In fact, the Chinese symbols, there's two symbols for crisis, and it's danger and opportunity. And, obviously I was in danger because I need to feed my family and I'm sleeping on a floor.
Yeah.
But then I also had an opportunity to start fresh, to no longer take those clients on that hurt me and only work with the wow. And it transcended my business.
What I love that you highlighted the O and the wow people and their feedbacks, because we give feedback and referrals when we feel something. And that is the feeling again that we were talking about before. So now we found the wow clients and the right people for us. But many people also have the wrong message. They cannot resonate. So they cannot even find the right people because themselves don't resonate with the message that they are trying to present to the people. So how can we define our right message so we get our crazy crew around us?
You've done an amazing job with your questions. I just want to compliment you because I teach this course called More Business, More Life, and my clients. And this is very much, there's a lot of other things because it's a 4-day program and we're fitting this in a short time, but you're right in order. You're brilliant in your line of questioning. So kudos. So the message is that next step. And guess what? You find it from your wow clients. The thing that I found, so this goes right back to the beginning of my marketing years. So remember, I went to film school. So when I got asked to do commercials, I lucked out. I would say I lucked out. They call it beginner's luck. I had a couple commercials make the clients more money. The main thing I can give myself credit for is that I did the best I could. I always wanted to do the best I could and treat my clients the best that I could. And so that got me reading marketing. I didn't go to college, to the university for marketing. I had to read all the books I could and all those things. But it was actually another failure that got me to wake up. I did a commercial and it failed. It did horrible. And I thought I made an epic movie. I took all my film and I made this great story and it didn't work. And I was like, what went wrong? And you know what I found? It was that I was using my language. I was using my story and not the clients. And what I learned, and it took me many years to break this down, but I've got it quite simple now. You think about it as like a map. If you, or a subway system, how like when you're on the subway, they have the map and it shows the different colors for which train goes where. And every city is going to have a different map. If you get on the train, you're going to have to look. That's just like people. So when I start to market to a certain group that wants a product or service of one of my clients or my own product service, I actually need to find their language. So instead of being creative, many of us as marketers, we think we have to go into our bubble and be creative and come up with all these ideas. And that's why, statistically, with some of the best marketers in the world that I've been able to spend time with, 3/4 of the ads have a fail rate when people are guessing. The ones that win is we stop guessing and we start knowing. And the way that we know is we go interview our wow clients. We start asking more questions. So I have a very simple principle about business. We find our wow clients, which we've already defined. We ask them what they want. We give them what they want in their exact language, as long as it doesn't hurt them. If they ask for something and it's going to hurt them, then we don't want to do that. But if it's okay, even though I know, like, for example, let's say that they say they want red, so then I say, oh, here, wow client, what would you like? I want red. I'm just making up a color here, right? So then I'm like, oh, I have red. And they're like, yes. And they're like, this is fantastic. What else do you have? And I'm like, oh, I have blue. And then blue and red makes purple. Let me show you that. That part is the education that we need to take the client through. So coming back to the example, we find the wow client, we ask them what they want, we give them what they want, then we teach them what they need. If we get too if we get too teachy, too preachy, then we distance ourselves from the client because they're not ready. So I guess in a truncated form, we have to meet our clients where they are and with the exact language. So I'm not joking, just to be very clear. I take the words right out of the client's mouth and put it in the advertisements, put it on our website. And I can tell you story after story how we've doubled, tripled companies' revenue just by changing the words on their website.
Yeah, that's incredible. And however, you are focusing on mostly one thing at a time, right? However, many people are thinking about multiple income. That makes it sure. Let's try this. Let's try that. What do you say to that?
Oh my God, I did the same thing. A lot of my losses in my 20s was because I heard people say multiple streams of income, multiple streams of income. And in that, you start doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this, and you're doing everything average, if at best, some
Mm,
things below average, and none are getting done. And in I have a saying now that I developed in my 30s is one thing to win. And it doesn't mean that I don't want multiple streams of income. I have multiple streams of income now, but what no one told me in my youth was one at a time. Just build one at a time. If you build multiple bridges to get across water, and you spend years building 5 bridges, you could have spent 1 year building one bridge and got across, and then use the income that you make from that bridge to fund the other bridges, or to hire people to work on your bridge so that you can go work on another bridge. So the thing that I had to learn was extreme focus. And
mm,
I try now when I'm building that at least a minimum of 85% of my attention goes to whatever project is most important. And I prefer 95%. So as you grow your team, now I have a team. So now we each can have it. So with my team, even as I have employees, we each have one project per quarter. So every 3 months, we have one focus thing in the company. And then we have our day to day. So that's
mm,
the 10 or 15% daily activities. But then we have one big project each, and that's it. So as if you're only by yourself as an entrepreneur, then just do one thing. And then I always say, what's the one thing and to work on? You might ask, a lot of people ask, so I'm just going to answer. I say it's grief or gain. What's giving you the most grief in your business? Then focus on that one thing to resolve that grief. And if you don't have grief, you just want to grow, then what's the thing that can help you gain the most? What's the one
mm,
thing? So even this can go down. So I'm not just, so at the beginning, I was working on more than one company. Then within the company, we can work on one thing in the company. So it goes one thing, you just keep getting down to that one thing. And it feels slower because you have less on your list to do. But I actually have grown my companies faster. It's crazy. It's like there's a Chinese proverb that says, if you want to go faster, you got to go slow down to go fast. It's wild. It's wild.
yeah. That definitely, and I love also ancient wisdoms and all the things. We are going to get back to that in the later of the podcast. However, you are like focusing in this world is very complicated. We have all the distractions around us. So how do you make sure that you can focus on that one project without without questioning yourself? Maybe I should do something else as well.
Well, again, there's several ideas around this. Well, the one thing is, making that commitment to yourself to have that focus. And believe me, I'm not perfect at this. I definitely get distracted. Like even last year during 2020, I'm all about more business and more life. But as you can see through this interview, sometimes that means I'm helping with sales. Sometimes that means I'm helping with marketing. Sometimes I'm helping with mindset. Sometimes I'm helping with schedule. Well, last year, a lot of people were struggling with sales because everything was changing in the world and people were like, oh, I cannot sell. People are hurting. And then I had to remind everyone, I'm like, does your business hurt people? Does it hurt people? And they're like, no. And I'm like, then why would you stop? Your business is helping people. You should go help people more right now. And then I had to reframe that. I got caught up on helping people with sales more. And it almost made a shaky spot. And I had to remind myself, Steve, you're here for more business and more life. And yes, you can help people with sales, but more business, more life comes first. And so sometimes it's just having that reminder. And
Mm-hmm.
luckily I have a good team around me so I think the first thing you have to do though is go back to your core purpose. Why are you're doing what you're doing, and when you have that, then you can ask yourself, what's the best way for me to make that happen? And just try to bring yourself back to focus. And the very minute way that I do this, I have a thing called plan tomorrow today. So every day at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, I plan the next day, and
Yes.
I allow for much kindness for myself. So at the end of the day, if I don't get done what I want, or I did get distracted, then I note that down. I was distracted, and I have no rollover. I have no consequence. I mean, there are consequences because it might slow me down, but I give myself a reset. I say, okay, that was today. Tomorrow is a new day. I'm going to write what I learned from today. I'm going to put a plan for tomorrow, and I'm going to give it a go. And when you do that just for 5 minutes, if you can do that every day, I can promise you your improvement will skyrocket, because every day, pretty soon, you won't need the resets. Pretty soon you'll know what you're going to do, and you just believe in yourself and you just keep going. So that's probably the biggest thing that changed my life around that, is just to reflect every day, because if you reflect daily, you're going to find the changes faster. If you wait a month and go, you know what, I didn't finish what I wanted. If I just do one day, then the next day I can make a change,
Yeah.
and instead of waiting a year, some people wait till New Year's, and it's, oh, it's a new year. I'm going to write my
Change
book.
everything.
Yes. What if you change everything every day?
Mm.
What if you did that every day? That allows you to stay focused. And then if that still doesn't work, the last tip I would give is get a buddy, get someone that can
Mm.
be your ally, whether that's an employee that you hire, or just a friend that's building a business too, or has a similar career. And actually, it doesn't even have to be similar, just someone that you can get on the phone with every day. And I do have some clients like that. They're terrible at planning tomorrow today. They're terrible at giving themselves that time. So several of them made a phone call with a friend. So at the end of the
Mm.
day, they have a phone call, and for 5 minutes each, so it's a 10-minute phone call. 5 minutes, the one person says, this is what happened. This is what I'm going to do tomorrow. Then the other person does the same thing. And just that accountability allows them to have someone to lean on, because
Yeah.
some of us, it's hard to do alone.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree with that. And I just love that you mentioned that planning your day the night before, because I do agree with that as well. And when I started doing that for myself, I realized that the next morning when I wake up, I actually have a purpose. I have an idea what I want to accomplish in that day. But also what I realized that I was falling asleep a lot faster because my mind is not circling around like what I need to do tomorrow, what do I need to do tomorrow, and like let's make a list, because you have the list already. You have figured out what you need to do tomorrow, so you can just really relax and get ready for the next day. So I love that you mentioned that. And what I want to also mention here is that now we covered the right people, the right message. We touched upon the advertisement and the sales that most people also struggle with. But now it's the time. So this is what we are talking about, like finding the right time. And as you are helping people make more revenue in less time, where do we lose the time? What is the most inefficient way to use our times when we are entrepreneurs?
Well, this is great. This sequence is beautiful. The plan tomorrow today is a big part of that. In the fact, the first thing I would say here's the thing to write down or to note from this. I call it plan your fun first. Plan your fun first, because here's what this means. We as entrepreneurs, or even career driven, you could work for someone else and you could be very much wanting to grow in someone else's company, and you want to make an impact and grow your career. What happens is we just put no amount of limitation to the hours, to the time contributions. And that is a problem. We need, you always hear think outside the box, but really we need to build a box. We need a framework. Otherwise, we're going to let it go out into all of our life. And then this can consume every bit of our time, which I mentioned at the beginning of this interview. That's not healthy. You're not recovering. You're working longer hours, and it's inefficient. So I can tell you, and I can bring examples like the one company I told you that increased 15 million,
Mm-hmm.
and the two founders are working 80-hour work weeks. We reduced it to 40. And everyone in the company works less now, and they all make more. They were able to give people raises. They were able to add a meditation room in the office. Everything changed because when you're running at an optimal level, you're going to, work differently. For instance, another CEO I was working with that we doubled his business. He had just come, this is before 2020. So he was just coming back from Europe from a holiday. And I said, how are you doing? He said, it's unbelievable. I'm working less, which I never thought that I could do. I'm making better decisions. When I am working, my thought patterns are better. I just feel better, and we're working better. And then it was at the transition. This is why I typically work with leaders, because they have to find that first. And then I said to him, what if everyone in your company had that same feeling? And then that's when the light bulb went on. And that's when he started taking what I had taught him, and we started deploying it across the whole company and making sure that people weren't just working lots of hours. They were working very efficient hours. And the efficiency, there's lots of ways. We can get into systems. We can talk about how to be more efficient in sales, how to be more efficient in marketing, how to be more efficient in operations. Those things do come, and we do get smarter about our systems. However, the first step is really allowing yourself to recover. Allow yourself to take more breaks. Allow yourself to walk away from the computer. Like if anyone listening to this just wants to try it out, when you're done listening to this podcast, take 5 minutes and go for a walk. 5 minutes, just set a timer, or jump up and down, or try to solve the Rubik's Cube. Or if you play an instrument, go play the instrument that you play for 5 minutes and then come back to your desk. I can almost promise you're going to have a different level of energy. And that's the mistake we make. We think that if we work longer, that's the answer, but it's not. It actually depletes our energy. And then the majority of our work, we're working at a low speed. So now I can work 4 hours in a day, and I can get a lot done in a very short period of time because I'm full of energy, and I know that I'm going to leave. So that's where it comes back full circle to the words that I said. Plan your fun first. I want to have a date with my daughter. I want to know I'm going to go have a day with my son, or I'm going to go have a music lesson, or things that I thought I wouldn't have time for anymore in my life. And now as an adult, I'm learning instruments that I wanted to when I was younger, but I never had time. So I'm finding all these things for things that actually were also important to me. And I'm getting to actually make that the priority. And then I squeeze the work into a shorter period of time. And it actually just happens. And if you don't believe me, what do you have to lose to give this a try? Just try for 1 week. Try to tell yourself, I'm not going to work outside of these hours. And guess what happens? You get smarter and smarter, because now you're like, and I will tell you, the first couple of days you try this, you won't get everything done. And then you're going to need to get smarter. And you want that. You want, like, there was times I closed my laptop and I knew I needed to send 2 more emails out. And then I just had to walk away because I promised myself I would. And the next day I got those emails done. And then it got better and better and better. And the last metaphor I'll say is, as humans, if you're eating food, and let's say you take a big scoop of the meal you're eating and you put it in your mouth, and you almost choke. You're choking. You can't breathe. You put too much food in your mouth, and but then you clear it. You're able to swallow. Chances are you're not going to take the same size bite. You're going to take a smaller bite. But when we're entrepreneurs or you're in business, we tend to take the same big bite every day and almost choke, and that is not okay. Take smaller bites. Get more done. Take more breaks, get more done. It's simple principles. They just have to be applied. And my best encouragement would be just give it a try.
I love the metaphor that you gave and how you described the daily life of an entrepreneur in a sense. And I think that's the future that we are leading to. There's a reason why New Zealand and Spain also started with the 4-day work weeks. with getting the 5 day pay, because they want to get the safety for the people that they will not lose that payment for the fifth day, but at the same time they will get more time to relax and have a more healthy work-life balance that we need to be able to be there for our families and for ourselves.
It's absolutely possible, and it's absolutely correct, because even the company I told you about, that in 11 months they increased 15 million in revenue and everyone was working less. And they thought, what's wrong? Like, how is this happening? Or did we make more money because people were working less? They did all the financial calculations and they found that everyone was working more efficiently. And so they were able to give people more money because it still was financially viable. So it's better pay them more, let them work less. It sounds crazy. Just think what I just said. How many CEOs are going to be like, oh, pay my people more and let them work less? It sounds like this crazy dream, but the reality is they come in, they're happier, they're working, they believe in the company. They're like, wow, you care about my life? Yes, I do. And in fact, if we all care about each other and we all lift each other up, you're going to make more money. And I'm proving it time and time again. And we're actually recording all of this because I'm producing it. I'm going back to my filmmaking now, and we're producing a documentary and some episodes to showcase this, because it's so wild what we're saying here. People are not going to believe it until they see it.
Yeah.
And luckily I have enough companies that are trying this out now, and we're getting to dozens. And my goal is in the next 3 years to have 1,000 companies that we've increased their revenue, reduced their work hours below 40 hours, have everyone taking more holidays, more vacations. And that's the 3 things that we're tracking. And then we're proving that we're able to grow their company while we're doing all of this. That's what we're doing right now.
Wonderful. And I cannot wait for those episodes to come out. So let us know as soon as you are finished, so I can share it with the people as well, and we can all watch it together. So I think that was a wonderful closure thought for our main part of the podcast. And now I would like to ask you like some closing questions that I usually ask from my podcast guests. So the first one is that you have experienced success in many different ways and many different areas of our lives. What is the definition of success for you?
Success to me is having what I desire without inhibitors, just so success to each of us is different. It's basically, what would you like? And I would just encourage everyone to not base their success on outside things, which I had done. In fact, I thought all personal growth was my measurement to something else, to someone else, to family, to all these things. And what I realized is being a better person is not being better. It's actually allowing myself to be me. So I find success is choosing what you want and then being able to have that thing. That's what it is.
I feel so much aligned to what you just said. So thank you so much. My second question is that, as I said, I'm going to turn back to ancient wisdoms, because I believe that we can learn something old every day as well, not only new. And I want to ask you, what is an ancient wisdom or something that you learned from a book, even your parents or grandparents, that you implemented in your life and you feel like that has added a tremendous value to how you live today?
I want to just echo that our elders knew some stuff that we should not turn away. And we have so many new things to look at and technologies and all this. Some of us have drifted so far away from some of these, as you put, ancient wisdoms. And so yes, I'm with you. And a couple from my grandparents, I learned that food is medicine. When we were sick, we didn't go get pills. We got food, and my grandmother would make soup with all these herbs and we would get better. And so I think that's something that we all need to register in our mind, that what you eat matters, and the better the food, the less you'll be sick. And then I've also had the opportunity in different countries to be with indigenous populations. And this has opened my mind in South America and New Zealand and in the United States. And the one thing, the word comes together. one thing in civilization, we tend to get our own place, have our own walls, put up fences. Here in the United States, it's very popular in neighborhoods to put a gate around your house, and it's very much becoming more individual. And that is not the way the human experience is meant to be. I believe that we are meant to go together. And speaking of ancient wisdom, my favorite African proverb is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that's one of the biggest words I can give you right now. Together. That's what I'm learning from indigenous folks. They go, there's one Brazilian tribe that I've got to spend time with, and if anyone is not well, the whole tribe stops and celebrates until that person's better. They're all together. So if one person is not well, then everyone helps until that that change is taking place. And just think how different that is than in most of us in our modern civilization. It's like, oh, you're sick, oh, that's your problem.
Yeah, I agree with you so much, and I think that we can learn. I don't have better words. So much from indigenous cultures, and as I was traveling as well, had the privilege to meet with so many of them, and all of the encounters, they were just magical, and I learned something new, something old actually every time, and that was when I started questioning. Okay, why did we forget this? But yeah, that's for another time.
Yes.
But yeah, my next question to you is that people ask you many questions. They come to you, they ask your advice on many different things. So what is a question you think is not getting asked often, but you believe is important to ask?
I don't know if I have the question, but somehow when you asked that, I had an answer, and it comes to, and so I'll try to form it in a question. But I think it's one of the most, in my mind, the most overlooked thing of success. What that is loving self. The first thing, that's why I come back to kindness. When we're talking about leadership, entrepreneurialism, all the things that you talk about here and you're inquiring about, these are people that are striving for something, striving for that word success that you just brought up a few minutes ago. And what that can do is, it can be sometimes deflating. It can be, put us into a depression spiral because we feel like we're not good enough. I think in order to have what you want, you have to become that. You become someone different to have more money. You become someone different to have the company you want. So I think the thing that I would say, of the thing that I don't get to express enough, I think, is just truly find yourself, like love yourself. And I know it's not as easy by yourself. And that's why I hire coaches. That's why I get mentorship. That's why I go, because they can be the mirror. It's hard to look in the mirror and say, oh, hey there, but you should look in the mirror and love yourself, because if you can't love yourself, it's going to be hard for others to love you. It's going to be, and even working, like growing a business, if you don't love yourself, then it's going to be hard to work with others. So just give yourself credit. You are everything you need to be. You are already there. You're not broken. You have everything that you're meant to do on this planet. And if you're really suffering, if you're hurting right now, then you probably are going in the wrong direction. And it doesn't mean to give up on your dreams, just maybe change the road you're on. You can still keep going towards where you want, but you might be on the wrong path. And I think goes back to feelings, that word you brought. We need to trust our feelings. Many of our societies on this planet have been taught in the modern society to truncate those feelings, to like compress them and don't feel that, and put your chin up and drink your tea. And that's, this we want, the feelings are there as a mechanism, as a guidance. And when you're not feeling well, don't go further down that way. Stop, become aware, and ask yourself, how else can I get there?
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Steve, for your time today and all the wisdom. I loved your stories. So you are such an amazing storyteller. I was captivated by all the stories and I felt like that I'm there with you all the time. So thank you so much for being here and sharing all that with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thank you everyone for listening to this interview with Steve. I think we shared so many important, valuable messages during this interview. And the main message that I personally took from this was to work smarter, not harder. I think it could be implemented in many areas of our lives. So just sit down for a second and think of your life or your business, your entrepreneurship, and see where you could implement the knowledge that we shared today. Thank you so much again, Steve, for sharing all this with us. And if you guys there, the listeners, have anything to add to this, what was your personal take on this episode? Feel free to share that with me on social media. Also, if you have a guest suggestion, feel free to share that with me as well. And I'm looking forward to share even more wisdom with you. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Until then, all the best. If you found this episode motivating, make sure that you share it with others and text this to your friend right now who you think would be inspired by this story. The best way to live a happy and fulfilled life is to serve others. So share this episode with people you care about. It has no cost, but will elevate them and make their lives even better. If this is your first time here, click that love and subscribe buttons and make sure that you leave a rating and review. I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback on how this message lifted you up, brought you a change into your life. I would also love to hear your own definition of success. I'm so grateful for your support, sending love and great health to you all. And now it is time for you to be on the ball.